for Cherry. Begin, animal. This time, you're eating paper. Viper's bug loss, sniper's promise, this angel of irresolute devices, fox is a strong female lead. Farmer wants a word for the blistered foolery of the thing, a certain heaviness assuaged and no such luck. Tawny stumblers through corn inclined towards commandments, chastely. Excessive swift apostle, brute betrayed by trees and manifold. Kindly we sleep with us eyes open. We recycle ourselves. Glamour is the Yas Queen, part of pain. Us body is a paradise boycott. Us body is the paradise backlash. Begin again, animal. Next time, it's going to be glass. Come apart in your own hands. You're a weakened leaf. You're a wrecked snake. Self-kill is so much social trending. All us sundry sauntering big cats, ambiguous panthers. Us breath is sweet, they say, is proof the royal disposition of the beast, or else time flies like a tiger in heat. Here, beneath the trickle-down and spoiling moon among unspeakables, lean into irrational sect work, hex work modus, majored in involuntary animal being ferrous, fearous luminary eye, disgust forced back through the smoky loin, oh pepperwort, herb of grace, protect you, time against us coming, neither sacred or taboo, between the gaze and the stare, grind yourself up as virtue against arsenic. Again, animal. This time you're eating paper. I come brain-skinned, then jugged in furtive learning, ditney to shake off arrows in perfect armour, hypocritical cunning. That's just vulture posy, child chat, wolf of a sheepskin persuasion, silent minder in the moon's remains, animal of cloven splendours. Impossible to civilise, hovel-dwelling omnivore, infinite in Ireland. I come, my skin provokes, sweating, my marrow settles, heat, my feculent womb ploughed up for rennet. I incubate eggs in my mouth, mimic, kibitzing the social contract in human tones, animal falling through the slang of your cantos, and what the hell am I doing here, etc. Sylvan fuck buddy, fuck biddy between the dusty stacks, elevated thus I go on my hind legs during daylight hours, confound my enemies and myself. Begin again. Next time, it's going to be glass. Murtherer of self and 7 times more likely shame, has a satiny feel, creates affront, obsession, spits and anger is incessant adaptation. We recycle ourselves. Queer cannot be healed, can only be made new. Babies, we become smaller and more fabulous by the day. Fantastic beasts and where to find them. Fucked over royal in a mirrored cubicle, in a teaseled beehive, in a Channel 4 mini-series. Babies, when we're all spectacle and no self, the whisper that distorts us, animal as event shit. All those discreet, belated dummies, their easy regime of flesh is bloked inside a bottle. Animal as own goal. Survival isn't brave, survival isn't anything, survival is itself entire. Want the golden realm of us through kingdoms, animal. This book our manifesto, by which I mean these bodies. Okay. Part the first. Thank you. There you go. Sparring fox. And for this reason, we call prostitutes wolves, because they devastate the possessions of their lovers. I sab myself, tar very much, O Trojan dog, absurdly honeyed. I sab myself, the dunno of this nausea is heavy. I sab myself, this fake anatomical waste of little reasons. I sab myself, my power is in my pores. I sab myself and all the dirty filters of paralysis. I sab myself, a vehement fear as able as the birds. I sab myself, the escapist scut that haunts my dreams. I sab myself to flowers when I think no one is looking. I sab myself, foot mute through your errand thunder nightly. I sab myself, my grammar of vigilant whelpings. I sab myself, I am the symbol and the sermon. I sab myself, oh leaky forcing dog, knocking over piglets like Marxist republics, knocking over lambs like rotten skills. I sab myself, and don't you wish your girlfriend was as high and meadow fed. I sab myself, axe to your obmutescent sky inherited crow dissolving. I sab myself, announce an unfavourable omen. I sab myself, in entwine and urge. I sab myself imperative tread on the stair moon at its most numbly censored. I sab myself babbling kiddle baby steps. I sab myself pitching a creep, nailing my twitch to a manger. I sab myself triple my reddest thrusting the older veil and ruin me. I sab myself mortuary hile. I sab myself all those dead and coming coins, all those slotty heads. I sab myself remanded remainder dog without the possibility of parole. I sab myself sparring fox. I sab myself the breath becoming fast a telling green this long administrative bone. I sab myself slut walk 2010 the English collective of prostitutes. I sab myself frisson vector the robin choked. I sab myself rasping. I saturate your dancer's mark. I sab myself raincoat as holidays and watery perv baby the whole dark through. I sab myself fecund oddity. I sab myself patient culprit. I sab myself the story cornered. Who's telling this thing anyway? I sab myself a broken focus, luminous and transitive. I sab myself Eros in his gown of total violets. I sab myself shedding marrow. I sab myself, oh serially girdled hound, waddle fox, the riddle nixed. I sab myself predicament of pines, his cum smells of resin and I want him, the shot fibres of a catwalk male. I sab myself Times text, the fall collection, breezy opals. I sab myself white confetti. I sab myself wire of wanton cells. I sab myself present space, this slender reciprocity. I sab myself 2007, a loose metaphoric exchange with a skinhead's boot. I sab myself a melody of stinking sheepfolds. I sab myself my pelt on alternative furs. I sab myself the tricky buzz of being near, wobbling, throw back your Neanderthal mutt. I sab myself fatuous rehash, the one with the hard sums, the one with the blood work, the one with the vitamins and x-rays. I sab myself deaf ear, singularly whispered. I sab myself pride 2001, yay. I sab myself livid names, the most temptations, the mossy boughs, florally ad nauseam. I sab myself trembling fraud. I sab myself there's a portrait of me being big and open-handed, making gestures in an attic. I sab myself, oh lushy beast, impeccable bride of missed opportunity. I sab myself for the bigger springtime forward of pale assumptions. I sab myself lean, an inevitable learning dog. I don't want nobody else. I don't want nobody else. I don't want nobody else. When I think about you, I sab myself. Okay. You don't have to applaud that, honestly. Row after row, row after row of virtuous animals. 1. The animals came in 2 by pleasing in the sight of God. We live inside the splinter, the fatal and expected prick. We live inside your sky-written wants, these avant-cant occasions, the day's aura impeded between turbines. We are restless and moist-eyed Cupid act of our loss, a sliding dread inside a globe of snow. The animals came in a taken rage, beating out the tetchy flax of temper and arc of obsolete triage as nobody was soothed. You can't take the animals anywhere, tongue poked through a pleasured slit. That's you, that is, eating the animal, licking the cream. The animals came in 2 by, yes, the water's rising, but caught is not the same as saved. The animals came in quietly and stood at the back of the theatre. They watched you fucking on a raised demonstration platform in order to show them how it was done. The animals kiss as a flawed Disney, as a Disney eunuch. They exchange their love, but lurkingly under the dripping trees, the mouldy awnings, the shanty muscovado of their dung. You keep the animals around like corny and smouldering ghosts. You send them viral snubs, the ruthless serifs of dismissal. They owe you the heat-sealed wallets of themselves, a history that repeats, first as barbecue, then as luggage. The animals came in nowhere, you limpid centrist, you Blairite, you fucking ball bag. The animals must reapply for their visa every 3 years. There's a test about fiefdoms and beefing queens. The animals came in 2 by 4 by 4 between the treads of tyres as reimagined metal, the hostile trumperies of wealth. You were driving through Fenland in autumn, rotten apples, wheaten sweats, the steepled pain within this year of deluge, roadkill, debacle, defrost your poet's O until it bleeds. Here are the animals springing the crouch of your car, disporting themselves beneath banners of their own season meat. Animals in lay-bys, smoked and streaky pageant martyrs, pinguid losers sublime between slices of thin white bread. You could stand your greasy spoon up in them. 2, on animal rights. You praise our courage As if the pig volunteers for the sausage. Do not praise our courage as something pristine and separable from the horror that provokes it, as a fetish, as a delicious and nauseating fetish of omnicompetent badassery, kickassery, Joan Jett in leathers, riot porn, food porn, maple bacon meme. Courage is a cartoon word, is the limit of your empathy. Courage is an implied judgment. It ascribes a moral value to suffering. It burdens us with the same. Courage is SpongeBob, prison of correctness, demands an extrovert performance of so brave, exemplary stoicism, strike a pose, silently mugging our AR-15s, raised teeth bared, broken, and shut up about your pain. Don't. Don't valorize the necessary work of persistence. Don't little us inside a two-dimensional image, static, flat, the teeny bot poster girl logics by which you disempower disaster. A war is not your theatre, kitsched, cuted, neutralized, hollowed out of its abject effects, staged. But we're not characters. We never asked to be the strong female leads in the subtitled biopic of our own destruction. Courage is crowd-pleasing, is a teasel princess cutting her hair with a sword. But we are not acting. This is not an act. Our country is collapsing inside the smug inertness of your response. Tree. The animals came in too by frustrated empathy, the invention of men. They weren't given time to question whose idea this was. They entered the bothered loop of the work-life balance, its cringing, stale erotics. An animal is like a joke because it does not always translate from one language to another. Noah made a list of all the animals on campus, then invited his friends to rank them in order of attractiveness. Sometimes being an animal is being the wife no farmer wants. The animals came for the gendered drollery, cosily enforced. They stayed for the buffet lunch. The animals came in a range of funky contemporary colours, everything from tawny peach to violent crime, the red of throwaway affection, hot pink's normative spoiler. As it turns out, you can put lipstick on a pig. The animals came in too by mindfulness exercise, both punitive and banal. There's a nip in the air now, yes, that's right, and with starlings in the bushes playing misty. We live inside a manifesto, the mouth in the mirror forced and preppy. An animal is all wriggle and no room. Sometimes we are the sturdy welcome of our bodies, sometimes we halt the moon in its marching orders. An animal can be burnt on the outside but frozen in the middle. Is the disputed territory arbitrarily divided, sectionally paired? The butcher is jovial but humorless. He has winks and nudges and sawdust folderols. In his Reader's Digest of paraphrased sin is a photograph, candid and commonplace, pig in the sorrowing uniform of her poses. The animals came in two by two, the rough weather licking their savoured shanks. Animal is a kind of saint, the enemy, the currency, virtuous animal, pale envoy, coy, consenting worm. Okay, so you'll be pleased to hear that's the last one. And this is less about animals and more no ceasefire in the class war. That's Cambridge Morning Pages. Did I mention it was going really well? In my stocking feet, beautiful, this sky on expenses, and you, well-met mammal, misguided and exquisite between swagger and reserve, skanking your pale upsetter's mojo. Animal, through a breakneck, bogus dusk, the moon, helpless and technical, with its forecast of paltry reprieves. Life sciences bloom is a dead fence animal, braised and gainsaid like a dark settee. Therapized syllables, straddled and pushed, acts in its Neolithic etiquette, exquisite cutting mojo is the stuff of nightmares gracefully proportioned. In my stocking feet, with my hoarder's habits in my poacher's coat. Beautiful, the first bite of extinction's day-glow cherry, my hurt gulp as I don't make it to the... So many nodding mouths, clumsy allegorical bones. I'm a prone ghost, I'm ghost prone animal. You soused and soncy wreck, 1,000 squinting tropes apply to go formally sauntering. Matchbook obsessive, a phase for all the stations of this pain. Your pages have been proved. Your pages have been proofed in my stocking feet, bloodshot hypotheticals, Cambridge eats my rootless, scrutinising mojo, this maze of ravenous errors, vulgar fauna, some designer skinhead, his violently persisting mouth purged, all your urgent folly, trailing about a cold swell under us, thinking of animals all day long. That woman looks through me, her depthless veto, the sibilant and numbing air, it is shame masquerading as shame, my accent lushly weaponised. War a fucking liberty. 1,400 asking hoodies, pastoral's essentialist shepherd, normie wasp banging on about. Clutch my pearls, my beaten please, oh I, you corpsey dope, the usual profiteering gibberish, irksome flesh. In the stock room I feed dead things, the slyly grifting fox and index glitch, I misspell words. How do you think it's going so far? The scathed capillary singing. Oh, you predictable and excessive baby, your choir of wicked roses, the bruised skin hurried open like a steamed bun. By rejecting error, the dog finds the truth, returns to its vomit, vicious and despoiled. Ideologized, dysphoria, yes, a perfect and guttering monkey, the vivisectionist unrolls my brain in scarlet banners. My heart and my business will be with the hounds, meaning my heart will go on, etc. Speaking of, the ideal entity serves as compensation for wretchedness. Discuss. The abject entity concentrates or burlesques that wretchedness in your own time. In a tinfoil hat, bleeding out like a harpooned monster, an erstwhile colleague, what are you doing down there with my boot in your face? All our vipers, maxims, lucky passions, or Diddums is professionally brave. She is vilely calm and I hated her, making weird eye contact, striking my chest like a stunned hoof hitting the nonsensuous similarity language, all frivolous, lurking, full squeal ahead, stupefied and forced. I'm a pig, I'm a bag of velvet mutinies, that woman says get out in her best Amityville voice. Trembling and inbred, pitiful and collapsing, slogans grafted and culled, the thistle's waltzing mojo, rose petal, penny royal, schlep what idea I have of myself to oi, you lyric shitheads gagged on a bland generality. Tell me who's that girl running around with you? She's the draggy dog scooting across council linoleum. She's a frilly wee resistible daughter of her own regional dialect, spit on her halt mithering. Nah, you'd break against her bother. Tell me who's that girl in her stocking feet? You gurning void. She assembles the pit bull inside of her mouth, all the Rottweilers of a country rupture. Real thorough, true rough, another afraid example, the I enjoined, to be sanctioned, written up small, quaint and warped. Gotta love poor people, their camp exaggerations. Oh, orphic and facile, both stringent and supple, a wild commitment of energy. Shadows some, faltered, hearkening, dim light, flared and slashed through the library window. This specific doing body here, now, my unhinged attention. Revolutionary irony. Baudelaire was like, we all have the Republican spirit in our veins, like we have syphilis in our bones. We have all contracted democracy and syphilis. Charlie B. in Belfast, circa 1998. Vertigo, to be pinkly swindled, a cold encircling dizzy attempts on the possible beautiful, the skyline folded into itself like a used tissue, like the drought of your strivers' iams, the repeat, the interval, the gut in its good offices once do. Stiletto, both violent and vulnerable, splintered numerals of lust, walking a girl like an aimed animal, all day with the doves, where God poured out his grace and disposition, uncommonly exalted her widowhood esteemed. My plighted frenzy, this worker bee, this eligible rude boy, his hard little body, a forensic gonk. A large careworn and obvious flowers, privileged but powerless, yet capable. Oh well, back to the garden, the lovely, cruel, discrepant thorn. The boa wastes them by sucking. The corroding sepsis, tiny, destroying the bones with the body. What human love can compare with the compassion of fishes? Brackets, Liz Truss. Her deathly airborne mojo. A kiss is an oath, erodes the lying mouth that authored it. My stocking feet, trotters in jelly. Model my details in fondant creme pat through a piping bag, twee cake weeping its black ganache, freeze me until I set. Recoil, erupt, touch true emptiness, the spoilers of somnolence, that woman says me to muddle her numpty reductions. They're very much like that, the notable and mean, denounced out to docs, but not necessarily in that order, stringent and flinching, hot off the press with a pragmatist mojo, bought a black dress second-hand to go with my non-regrettery Anne, animal predictable kindred in our uggums and our straightened kennings and our rambles and our warrants. I take myself apart by the photocopier, beautiful, the dim rusk of my face, cloven, cleaved. It is going so well. Thank you.